Hi guys, in today's video I'm hearing from Amine, one of our bespoke coaching clients, about his job offer at a top technology consulting firm. Amine is a really inspirational human being. I've learned a lot from him. I think you guys can too. Enjoy. So tell us where you're from, Amine. What's your background?
I am from South Africa. I attended Wits University in Johannesburg and obtained my bachelor's with honors at Wits University with the first.
Cool. And how did you come to the UK?
So I was applying to many universities and I got accepted by Warwick University and I decided to go for it.
So you came over to the UK. What did you study at Warwick?
At Warwick, I studied a master's by research in computer science.
Very cool. So when did you know that you wanted to work in the UK, and what was the thinking behind that? What was the reason for you?
Okay. So I knew when I arrived here, I had to start applying for jobs, which I did, but I was getting a lot of rejection. But the reason why I want to work in the UK is mainly because the UK is like it accommodates disabled people. So I think I will have better opportunities here.
Yeah, I can always remember you telling the story of having to drive your wheelchair on the road, and that
Yeah.
really, it's really difficult to imagine, particularly when you grow up in a certain place, even though I've traveled quite a lot. So yeah, that's cool. I mean, so you sort of entered the UK in like September 2019.
Yeah.
And then what was your journey? Because I think before we met, you'd already given it a damn good go. Like you'd been applying for jobs for about 11 months by then, hadn't you?
Yeah, around 11 months. But obviously, when the pandemic hit, everything went wrong.
I think, I think that's the understatement of the year. But just for context, because I think it's really important to sort of concentrate on the failures which really inform our successes. What were you doing? How were you looking for jobs when you were doing it by yourself? What was your process? What were your results?
Okay, when I was applying by myself, I was applying basically to graduate program. And as we know, by applying to this program, you need to do specific tests, like, tests, online tests. The thing I missed is basically informing the company that I needed adjustment. And I think that's why, okay, not really, but that's one reason why I was constantly failing.
I guess what you're sort of trying to talk about is that it's complicated. The process is complex. There are lots of variables, and I think that's often underestimated. because it's not like you're sitting in your room going and you wake up and you're like, I think I'll get a job today. It's like you wake up and you've got all this different stuff to do. You've got your studies to get on with. So it's a lot, right?
Yeah, there was a lot to do.
Yeah, it's difficult to systematize something when you don't understand all the moving parts, because you're just like, I don't know, like I just apply for jobs and hope for the best.
Yeah.
So we first came across each other in August 2020.
Yeah.
And I mean, do you want to tell the story and just sort of say what that was all about?
Okay. I think at that time I just gave up because it was getting late in the year. I got nothing. My degree, okay, my registration was nearly over, as well as my visa. So I had given up hope. Then I got a message from you, and we had our first Zoom call, and yeah.
And the rest is history. I mean,
Yeah.
I think my assistant must have sent out a couple of thousand messages, and I had a lot of people contact me who were just kind of, it's really funny, right? Because you'll get a lot of people say that they want to do something and then they actually don't want to do it, or they just want you to do it for them. But we had a CV review session together and it was great. You know, we spent quite a bit of time together. And then I think it was like a couple of weeks later, I sent out an email just saying like, oh, hey, come join the program. And you're like, all right. You're like, I'm up for that. I mean, it's a big jump from, you know, you're a really clever guy. And I guess I'm just curious as to what was the gap? What was the defining moment when you sort of thought, you know what, this really isn't working, going my way? Why ask someone for help? Why get a coach?
Okay. So, yeah, many people, I can say for myself, I thought I was doing the right thing, which I was in a way, but I was missing out on certain small things basically, and I couldn't figure them out, or I was just ignoring them. So I just decided, you know what, it's nearly, okay, time is nearly up. Let's just close my eyes and ask for help.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We've talked about it a lot between us, and because you're, you know, you're really good at AI. We talk a lot about, you know, standardizing, measuring, and optimizing frameworks and systems. And I think, you know, you understood that part really well. And it was basically because it was kind of, it's like a data issue, right? It's like I don't have enough data to be able to optimize because all my data is bad. All my data is like I failed and I can't optimize based. There's no feedback loop. The feedback is like, this is not good. There is obviously a problem, but I can't see it. So yeah, it was, yeah. And I think that's quite common. And also that's really, it is a smart decision. You know, there's a reason why top performers have coaches.
Yeah.
Because a coach can help you see something that for whatever reason you can't see.
Yeah.
So yeah, you joined, but it wasn't a straight, it was a difficult, it's been a tough journey, right?
Yeah.
Even the two of us together. So tell us about that, because it wasn't easy. What happened once you joined?
Well, firstly, I tried to overwork myself if you remember. And yeah, that didn't work out. But then we took it a step at a time. We first, okay, we were applying constantly, but we started training by doing those online tests like practice. Then we moved on to interview practice, and yeah, we continued from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit of context as well.
Okay.
I mean, you had 32 hours of FaceTime with me.
Okay.
So we spent, and you were consistent as a heartbeat. And I only realized that just the other day. I was going back and basically doing an 80-20 analysis on how I spend my time. And one of the thing came up is my Calendly or Zoom time on Zoom.
Okay.
And what I realized, and this is really interesting, comparing you to candidates who maybe took longer, have been less successful, or have seen some kind of the clear differentiation I see between success and not success is a lack of consistency. So every week you're consistent. And plus, like it took you, and I guess we should talk about it next because it wasn't instant. Like you said, it was in the middle of the pandemic. I think it was like, I don't know, the 27th lockdown or something. And it took you 2 months to even get an interview. So can you just speak on that kind of being able to be consistent over time?
So, as I said, we were applying a lot, but we were getting a lot of rejection. And it did take about maybe more than 2 months to get one interview. So it was hard. And in November, November, like, I think both of us were thinking this isn't working. But we continued, applied, and things started to uh, turn around in January, where all the interviews started.
I mean, I didn't think it wasn't working. I just didn't know how bad the externals were
Okay.
because, we were in the third lockdown. Companies were, it was desperate times, right? And the thing was, and I can distinctly remember us having that conversation at the end of November, and you just felt really, as I would, right? Because that's the thing, it's hard because you're this, you kind of like 2 months, you're just knocking on the door, nothing's happening. And I said, look, just keep the faith, just keep going. And that's the other thing about having an outside perspective. Someone can kind of look at it. It's almost like having a mentor in a way. They'll be like, yeah, I've done that, I've been there, I've done it. I know it can get really difficult, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is gold. There is gold in the mountain. Keep digging. And then it was from December that you started getting interviews. And then I think January, when you had your kind of first breakthrough with, I think maybe December, January, you had your first breakthrough with one of the banks. And then, so if you'll just speak on, once that the interviews are coming, what was it like sort of preparing, fine tuning and persisting through that?
Okay, when the interviews started to come, we we focused on the interview. So learning about the company, answering questions and whatever. But I think the reason why we got through it is because we were consistent and we I can say we met a lot, and it was a lot of work on both of our ends. So yeah.
I mean, it was all right for me. It was a lot of work for you, but you know, again, you just kind of, and this is the thing, sort of preparing for the interviews, you were really consistent over time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say necessarily you were always doing, because you were finishing up your masters as well
Yeah.
to hand in your final thesis. But again, you're just really consistent. You kept turning up, and I think that's the thing. It is half the battle, probably more so. Actually, it's just like, just turn up, see you next week, see you next week.
Yeah.
And then slowly things move, because when they moved, I mean, they moved pretty quickly,
Yeah, they do.
you know, and it was that kind of like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I've got an interview here and here and here, and I've got an assessment centre here. And, you know, and of course, I mean, just to sort of, you know, and then you had your great news. What are you going to do? I mean, you don't have to name the company, but if you just want to speak on, you know, I know it's a famous technology consulting firm, and just speak on that process and how it was for you.
So I think the first bit with this company was really accommodating to my needs. They really put an effort to accommodate me despite my disability. So what they done is that instead of doing this online test, they basically converted it into an interview or interviews. And we did prepare for each one. We knew that these interviews are going to be like the online tests. They just wanted to convert it to a verbal assessment to make it easier for me. And I went through maybe 3 or 4 different interviews with the company, and the final one was in the assessment center in January, I think. Yeah, and about a month later, I got the call that I got an offer. Yeah.
Yeah, so cool, man. 143 days, that one. So yeah, it was pretty, I mean, it was pretty awesome, all things considered, because it was a bit, you know, it was a bit touch and go, you know, a few things we hadn't mentioned. When you joined, you had 6 months left on your visa. So it wasn't like, yeah, I've got loads of time. It was like, hurry up,
Yeah.
hurry up.
Yeah.
And just that sense of pressure, I can't imagine how that was, just kind of feeling like time was running out. I mean, how did you deal with that kind of, how did you keep it in the day and deal with that sense of anxiety that I know you had?
I don't know. I think I just forgot. Not forgot about it, but maybe I put it aside, knowing that if I worry about that, I will be unsuccessful and I will be focusing on something that is out of my control. My job was to apply, do well, get the job.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've said it to you many times, and I found you to be really inspirational, and it's been so wonderful to coach you and to become, you know, we've become friends, and that's been really nice. I mean, a couple of questions that are just sort of just for a bit of fun,
Okay.
because you know I like to mess with you. So here's a good one. Say we had a bet, right?
Okay.
So we had a bet, same student, just like you, same background, because you're a top student, right? You're a top student, you're at Warwick, who's, say, studying a master's. They've got 6 months left. I mean, what's the road? And say I said to you, right, I bet you £1 million. You can't get them a job in the amount of time it took you to get a job. How would you structure that plan to massively increase the probability of that success, say for a student in comp sci?
Well, I think firstly they have to have the right mindset. They need to think, well, just basically they want their job full stop and work on what I will do is update advise them to update the GitHub, which took me many weeks, and yeah, just apply, uh, answer the questions in the application properly, like take time. An application can take a week to complete. It's not a one-day job. And just be consistent. Work every day. Try to, I think, practice your tests every day. Even for 2 hours is enough. And yeah, just work with consistency.
Yeah, great. Just, I think just for context, so, because you said, oh, even 2 hours a day, and I know that there'll probably be people watching that going, what the? So I think some important things to point out is that you don't talk about your disability, but it does, for certain things, it does take you, much longer to do stuff, which is related to physically. And like, you're a monster, because you'd sit there and just, it's stuff we take for granted, right? Like typing out an email or writing out a form, or, because how long, for context, I mean, how long would it take you to, say, do one online test, like as a practice?
One online test may have taken me about 3 hours. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just patience.
You were super patient. I mean, you did over 70 applications.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and how long did each of those applications take?
Yeah, the long answer questions took really long, about a day or two, if you remember. Because you need to make sure you research the company, align your answers with the values, mission, and vision of the company. It's not just write, submit. No. It's about going and reading and applying what you read.
Yeah, I mean, what you said about mindset is so important. And you were certain. You had an element of certainty about you. And I aim to take clients who have that element of certainty, because otherwise it's kind of pointless. That's what I've learned. If you're looking for someone to do it for you, it's not going to work out, because, it must come from within.
Yeah.
That fire, that, what we'd call burning the boats. you know, kind of like, you know, you said like, I'm here to get a job, full stop, dot done. I mean, how did you kind of deal with the doubts, or just to sort of, did it enter your mind? Was there a process that you went through to sort of maintain that mindset, or is it just something you've always had?
That's a good question. I don't know. I've always, I mean, if I want something, I get it, whether you like it or not. I, I, I know okay. I know it's a lot, okay, will be a lot of work, but once I'm done, I knew, or once I get a job, I knew that this will all end and I can relax.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's not to think that you will fail. I think just forget about that. If you say you will fail, then you will fail. Simple.
Yeah, and you will fail.
Yeah.
You know, you will. But the thing is, actually, when you think about the odds, it makes it a lot easier, because you only have to win once.
Yeah.
You don't have to win every time. And I think that's, and you knew that deep down, you're just like, oh, let's go again. Let's go again. You know, because that was the thing. It is a winner takes all game. You know, so let's just, while we're going along, is it failing? No, we're just getting better at playing the game.
Yeah.
Because when the opportunity presented itself, you know, you killed it, because you had honed your skills. So once someone was like, yeah, all right, I'll give you a chance, you're like, boom, crushed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, look, I mean, is there anything else that anybody who's watching this and sort of is a bit like, oh, it's all very well for you to say, I couldn't be able to do it because X, Y reason, you went to Warwick, or you're like this, or you're like this. Is there any kind of words of encouragement or advice you'd give to someone who's just starting, like at the beginning, like you once were?
Maybe there are many opportunities, so I think just continue to follow them and work consistently. That's all I can say.
Short and sweet. Thank you, Amine.
Okay, pleasure.